Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Hospitality Hoot. In this week's episode, we talk about branding, concepts, and themes, what's the difference between them, how you can understand them, and what you can do to stand out as a restaurant. Enjoy. How are you doing, Austin?
Good. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm excited about this topic.
Oh, yeah. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about branding, concepts versus themes. Basically, how do you conceptualize a restaurant in the very beginning before you even think about where you're going to be, like what you're going to buy, how you're going to start. You got to know what you're going to be, who you're going to cater to, and what is the general sense of ambiance that you're going to have there. And that's a lot of big stuff. I feel like you could spend years trying to figure it out. But I think you just have to first define these terms of like, what is a brand versus a concept versus a theme?
Yeah. A lot of places are really quick to kind of dive into, they have an idea of what they want to serve and they don't really put all the necessary like groundwork in, and they just kind of get lost in their own way. You're kind of stepping on your own toes if you don't know, your core foundation of what your business is going to be. So figuring out what that is from the get-go is going to help you big time in the long run when you're opening up a spot.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, the idea to open up a restaurant starts with, I like to make food and I want to make food. Like I want to open a restaurant to serve food. And then everything else is kind of like not thought out that much. You don't think about how are you going to communicate with your audience. You don't think about what the connection is going to be. I don't think about really sometimes the cocktails or the drinks get a second thought, or whether or not you even are going to get a liquor license and serve alcohol. So all that stuff needs to be really like thought out. There's so much going on. One thing I did, I looked up I basically just Googled difference between a brand and a concept. Okay. I know we both have our own opinions on it, but I wanted to get some kind of third party perspective. This is a blog written by Grits and Grids, or it's on gritsandgrids.com. So brand versus concept. It says concept by definition is a general notion or idea. If that seems pretty loose, it's because it is. Your restaurant's concept is a general idea of what you offer. For example, a quick serve breakfast cafe, a full service American buffet, etc. The concept is pure utilitarian description and lacks any positioning, advanced differentiation, or brand promises. Basically, it is what it is. Which makes sense, right? Like, if somebody asks you, or if you were to say, I want to open a restaurant, what kind of restaurant do you want to open? Oh, well, I want to do like an upscale Italian restaurant. That's it. That's your concept.
That's your concept. Yeah.
Very simple.
If you know grandma's secret recipe to her, pot pie or like a good sandwich or something, it's like, yeah, you're going to be doing a deli. You're going to be doing like, a quick service style restaurant. Mm-hmm. So play to your strengths when you're kind of looking at who you are as a brand conceptually.
Yeah. And I think that most of the places that end up just kind of opening without any real forethought, they end up opening kind of a mid-scale full service restaurant where they're like, well, we'll just do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we'll have everything pretty affordable and like not try to get too out of our comfort zone, and never really go above and beyond to do anything crazy, right?
Yeah. I think concept is the easy one for beginner restaurant people to kind of establish and realize. And I think a lot of times it just kind of ends there. Mm-hmm. They say, okay, I'm going to serve sandwiches. I'm going to be fast casual, and that's it. and it just falls flat from there.
Right.
So the branding comes in. That's where a lot of the fun takes place too.
Absolutely. And it definitely like, and it's not as specific as your theme. You can be a themed restaurant. You don't have to be a themed restaurant, but I think that it helps to kind of identify yourself. But definitely your branding, the way things look, your color scheme, the type of energy that you're trying to put off. I think that all kind of fits within your brand.
Yeah.
It says here, this is off of Grits and Grids. A restaurant's brand is a bigger beast and harder to define, which I agree with. It is very hard to kind of define sometimes what somebody's brand is. It's not your logo, as they say. It's not the interior design. What's more is the restaurant's concept is part of the restaurant's brand. The utilitarian descriptive part, your restaurant's brand is the feeling and thought a person gets when they encounter one of your restaurant's touch points. And by touch points, they mean like your first, like if they call to make a reservation, if they go to your website and like see what the menu is, their first interaction with a host, their first interaction with a server, the experience while they're inside there, and their experience as they leave. Those are all touch points, right? So that general feeling that you get, I guess, is part of your brand.
Yeah, pretty tough one to always identify. I think a lot of places, especially around here, we were just taking a walk today, and there's so many places that I feel like are not really, they don't even know who they are themselves, and it's a tough one to kind of identify. I think it'd be a good idea for us to like think of an example of like, okay, let's put ourselves in a situational idea. We have the money, we have the funds, we want to open let's go like a fast casual pizzeria. Maybe we can go from there and give an example of kind of like the breakdown of how the different avenues you can take, like opening up a pizzeria.
Yeah. I honestly like the fast casual pizzeria thing like has been done, I think, not as well as like Chipotle or like Pokey or that kind of setup. You have like a Blaze Pizza or whatever, and they have this like really thin dough that they do, and you could pick your toppings and they put it in the oven and it cooks in like 10 minutes and then you get a little pizza, which I think is a cool concept. That is definitely like the fast casual, and it's hard to kind of break from that too when you look at the efficiency of that business model. I don't know. I would want to look at like how successful those types of concepts are versus your traditional pizzeria, the slow oven baked, like have a few different styles of pizza out. You can order by the slice and they do delivery, because that's like the very tried and true classic style of pizzeria.
Yeah.
If
I definitely think like labor and everything would come into play, and I think doing a fast casual or like at a counter like a Chipotle or something like that, having the menu super simple and broken down into like size, basically like what Starbucks is doing. If you can do it like with a pizza, and break it down that simply, it could be super beneficial. Pizza in general is like a super huge moneymaker.
Right.
Operating cost is low. Wood burning oven, things like that. But I think from going like concept, I mean, we could switch it up. We can do like a traditional style, like we could do an example of traditional like pizza, like a classic Italian pizzeria. So we can do like a sit down. A waiter would come up, serve you your pizza, whatnot. You'd place an order with a waiter. What are some branding ideas that we can do to kind of identify this pizzeria?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like logo. That's like the first thing I think of.
It's funny that you said like not logo, but I think it really does. The way you design your logo, it could be very beneficial for your brand because it's the style, it's a feel. It's the first thing people look at. It's the first thing people see. I think it does play a huge part in branding.
And there are branding opportunities for every restaurant, and I think those things are growing a lot, especially after the pandemic. Like, you're not just selling food and drink, but you're doing to-go stuff. Once you start doing to-go stuff, the opportunity to put your brand, like to put your label on like everything to put your logo all over stuff, has grown. And pizzerias have always been like that, where like they have whatever. It's like a bad draw. It's always a bad drawing of like a weird Italian guy, and then like a brick oven, and then like hand drawn letters or something like that. Like they all look the
Yeah.
same, you know. And it's always all over every box. Like I feel like almost every like pizza shop like looks it. There's like 3 subcategories of these pizza shops, and it looks like they're all like owned by the same people.
Yeah. I think a lot of those boxes may just be like
Generic,
wholesale generic ones that they pick up. But yeah, some of them do have their logo on it, so it really kind of throws me through a loop. They're all the same.
right?
Yeah. But I think that kind of you're starting to tiptoe into like kind of more like advertising,
Yeah,
or like the marketing aspect of your so like branding and marketing do kind of meet in the middle somewhere. And I think when it comes to like slapping your logo on stuff, it's good branding because you can see and feel your restaurant. But you can also kind of assume that could be more toward marketing.
right. Yeah. Which I mean, it's like super important. I think if I was to open a fast casual, like if somebody was like, "Hey, here's $1 million, open a fast casual restaurant," I would probably do something. I would try to do something that's like a little bit less like popular, or not less popular, but just something that like hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
In that style. Because what do we have? We have like Panda Express. We have Asian food. We got pizza already. We got Chipotle, which is technically like the Mexican cuisine style. You got Poke, which is, I think honestly, besides Chipotle, I think Poke is like the king of fast casual. And then you have, I don't know. I would want to see like sushi, like a quick sushi, like not just Poke, but like they would like make your roll really quick like that. That might be good too.
Or like a drive-through sushi spot.
Drive-through sushi.
Yeah.
I feel like that that has like the same tone to it as like gas station sushi. But
I think that'd be a good concept.
you never know, dude.
Drive-through sushi.
You could
if
do.
If any of you guys do it, I get a portion of that.
Yeah, you could do something cool with it though. Yeah, I mean fast casual burgers as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all. I think those are all just like it's just like that sort of concept, like branding for like a fast casual. You're definitely more about quick, like easily recognizable, and you have a lot of packaging because a lot of your stuff is like to go, right? So that's all of your touch points are like people just ordering, or they have that really quick face to face, or they just tell you what they want, and then you get your bag and you leave, right? And in some cases you sit down, but it's still all in like to go stuff, right? Like there's paper and all this stuff that you could be branding. Whereas if you're in like a mid-scale dining establishment, there's not going to be all that packaging. Like you don't have all that. So your brand is more focused on the guest interactions, I think, and your like social media presence.
Yeah. Your website, what that portrays, like what that kind of feels like. Is it cohesive? Like I said earlier, when we're building like our brand, our design scales, we want to identify the typography that we're using. We want to identify the color codes. So when you are implementing all these items on your menus, on your website, it's all cohesive. It's all saying the same thing. It's all saying the same story. If you're using Times New Roman on your menus and you're using, Arial on your website, it's all looking a little bit not cohesive.
Right.
And you start to lose focus. And if you pump out ads and you're different, it's like you want the same vision, the same look and feel throughout your time as a restaurateur. You want to be consistent and have a story that is true to itself from the beginning. So establishing those little things like your typography, the colors that you want to use, typically like 3 to 4 colors of like shades that go well with each other. You want to try and play with, and look into those colors. They all mean different things. Like internally, there's a lot of science that goes behind, colors of interior colors, exterior colors. They all play a really strange psychological, impact on somebody when they approach your restaurant. Some may be a little bit more stand out and, punchy, which some people, gravitate toward. And a lot of times, some people will gravitate more toward like your neutrals and calm. So what are you trying to make your guest feel upon it before they even enter the door? What kind of mood do you want to put them in? And those are the kinds of things that play with it, and music as well. I think goes a long way with branding.
I think also, like, what does success mean to you? Like, in the end goal, if you are as successful as you ever want to be, what does it look like? Does it look like everybody's sitting down having a conversation with candles lit and your rezos are full like throughout the whole week? Or is it you have a line down the block and people are like can't wait to get in and they're taking pictures and they're in and out really quick and it's all like Instagram and foodie? Those are two completely different like visions for success, and you have to build that idea in the very beginning. That kind of thing isn't really going to happen by accident. So yeah,
for sure. No, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking about it like with longevity in mind. What's the best case scenario for this, and plan for that. Right.
Yeah, good points.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people also get like overwhelmed with their concept or brand, or sometimes their concept gets in the way of their brand. If you understand what I'm saying, like someplace they want highly executed cocktails, all right, for example, and because of that, their bartenders are pretentious, and you go in and people have a bad experience because they got bad customer service because all the bartender did was care about how good the cocktail was. They didn't care about that first part of being welcoming and most of all catering to what the person wants. Instead, they're just like shoving this like kind of narcissistic idea in their head. I think sometimes they can just get in their own way like that.
For sure. I think you and I both have a good example of what that could look like. Picture a touristy spot on the water. People not from around here, they want to come in and order, margaritas. You look at the reports and what's selling, what's doing good. And somebody owning the establishment says, I want to create this environment instead. I want smoked cocktails. That's getting in the way of, you're stepping on your own toes here. You're not playing your strengths. You're not staying true to your concept. And you're going to end up, sacrificing your restaurant.
Yeah. It's like basically like you trying to turn a beachfront margarita and taco restaurant into a beachfront steakhouse and oyster restaurant. Like those are like two completely different things. Like, sure, you could open up a bistro next door, but you can't just like keep the same name that you've had for 30 years and then all of a sudden decide like, oh, we're going to go from these like giant salted margaritas to like small, classy smoked old fashions. You're right. Like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And it's just
get toppled with it.
Yeah. It's just loss of identity, I think, is that as 100%. Well. And just being out of touch with the actual clientele. You can have a great idea, sure, but if you're not in the right location like that, it's not going to work. You have to know who you're catering to, know where you are, know what people are willing to spend. And that's super key. That comes down to like real estate too. Like, so you have to identify, if you're going to open a restaurant, right? You have to identify your brand and your concept, know what you're going to do, know who you cater to, and then find out where those people are, and then open in that area.
Yeah. I think that kind of separates the experience to the pro, like semi-experience to the professional restaurateur. I think if somebody saw a space, prime real estate, they don't even have an idea in their head. They see the space and they play their strengths. They look at the key demographic in the area. They look at, they're on the ground doing footwork and asking, what does this community need? And they build something that is needed. They're not coming in with one idea, they get a restaurant and they force it to work. To do that, it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, right. I think. So, to play your ultimate strength, you got to find a space and be open-minded to what's around you, and what can you create for that community.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance as well, right? Because if you only created what there was demand for, everything would be the same.
Yeah.
If you the city would never grow. Like, it would just be the same restaurant over and over again in the same locations. So you have to have something new. You have to have something that's like fresh, but it has to be kind of within the parameters of what people are looking for, right? Like, for example, in the gas lamp, people are looking for somewhat more of a casual dining experience. I realize a lot of the cocktail menus don't have a lot of stirred drinks. They have a lot of shaken, like easy to drink, like margarita style cocktails. There's probably like 7 different tequila bars, and they all have their different concepts within that. They're not just tequila bars. One's like a rock and roll bar. One's kind of clubby. One is kind of fratty. They all have their different vibes, and different like levels of service and style of food and drinks. So it's important to know who you are going into it, but also like who you're going to cater to. It's crazy. Like, where I work, we are technically an agave bar. Right next to us is another, like, it's an agave. It's more like Mexican food with some cocktails to accompany it. We're a bar before we're a restaurant. The whole concept is I'd rather eat at a bar than drink at a restaurant, which is like, that's how I feel. But I think that's a completely different vibe. You know what I mean? And the place right next to us has a completely different clientele. It's not like we're just getting random people like walking in, but you could just tell, like, the people who are sitting in our chairs feel a little bit more passionately about the ingredients going into their drinks, and the people next door are, well, just getting drunk. So it's a completely different vibe. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think that somebody needs to go into a space and think, all right, it's going to be brunch, taco bar. You got to think big. And I think if you're going to create a concept, it's got to be over the top. I think nowadays everybody's kind of doing the same monotone, contemporary kind of vibe, and to stand out from everyone else doing the same thing, you really got to take I guess we'll dive into the theme and really kind of give it your all and really create something that's a whole different, environment for somebody to kind of immerse themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into a little bit about themes. Sometimes they could be a little bit cheesy. So I'm kind of on the fence of like the whole themey restaurants. So it's kind of, I think more concept branding is like a good, more my thing.
Yeah.
And I think themes are a little bit cheeky.
Yeah.
And could get a little bit on the cheesy side. So it's kind of a fine line you got to walk and make sure that you're not being corny or like,
right.
Creating a cheesy environment.
Well, I think themes are cool, like, to a certain extent, like Craft and Consortium Holdings, for example. Like, they have however many different concepts, and each one has its own little theme. They have their umbrella of their brand. Under that umbrella, there's individual concepts, and each concept has its own theme. So within that, they like have one designer do everything. They have one social media presence do everything for them. They have one they have one chef and one bar guy creating the food and cocktails for all of these different places. So you go into each different space, and they all have different atmosphere, completely different food, completely different drinks, but it feels kind of cohesive at the same time. And they're completely different. Like, each spot is like, you have a Negroni bar down in the East Village, but then you also have like a steakhouse in Little Italy, and across the street from there is an oyster bar. So they've done a very good job at their branding and and their execution and all of that. And I think that's kind of what like everyone should strive for. But even if it's on a smaller scale, you know, you can still make that happen with one location. You don't need 10 locations to have those things clearly identified. But I think it's the devil's in the details, I think. Like, be more specific about what you want and what you want to be. You can't, like, don't be so broad to be like, well, we could just have everybody. Like, let's just, we don't want to discriminate. We don't want to, like, make anyone feel uncomfortable here. So let's just have a little bit of something for everybody. And
when somebody asks you who your clientele is, you need to be specific.
Right.
Like you said, I think it's important.
Yeah. And the failure in that is that you end up having, you let everybody dictate what you're going to create. And so you end up with like a menu that is a small library, and you're not executing well on anything. And the thing is, when people talk about what's a good place to go to tonight, where I can eat, you want to be able to explain a good spot in like a 1 or 2 sentences, like a really short sentence. Like, oh, where should I go? Oh, there's this cool hip little Negroni bar over here, or there's this really like pop in nightclub spot over here, or there's a really good place for tacos and margaritas over here. Like, that's how short you want people to be able to describe your restaurant.
Tell me how many times you've heard somebody say, what's a good spot for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a good cocktail? Like, nobody's asking those things, and it's really difficult to hear owners or somebody who manages this restaurant that you ask the question of who is our clientele, and they'll blatantly say everybody, everything, we want to do it all. Very naive thinking, I think. You want to be specific, and you want to be very, very good at one thing. To be okay at it all is, you're a 24-hour diner at that point. Right. And you're not going to be the top of the town. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Especially in a city where like it's all really competitive. Like you can't capture everybody's attention. Like, that's just not going to happen, So you have to focus on a small core group of people that are going to love your shit. Like, people that are going to be super stoked on you because you're the only place that does that thing. So I think that's absolutely true. Like, think smaller. It can be really like exciting, especially for somebody who's, maybe they've dreamt of owning a restaurant. They've dreamt of doing it their whole lives and they don't know what to do. And so they get kind of like too excited and they go overboard because they have all these ideas and they don't want to say no to any of them. So they kind of do a little bit of everything. And then you just end up with this kind of, this logistical mess, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a lot. That just happens a lot. Happens too much. Yeah. And I would say the majority of restaurants that are open do that.
And let's say that you did finally, you got all your ideas in, you got it all laid out. How are you going to be running this place, and how long are you going to sustain that place? How much consistency is going to be coming out of something like that? And those are all the things that you got to think about. Keep it simple, stupid is a motto that I kind of took on and lived by for a while. You don't want to be overcomplicated when you don't have to be.
Right.
Bottom line, if you're trying to do it all, you got to manage it all. Mm-hmm. So is that going to sustain you, and how long can you actually sustain doing a business like that?
Yeah. I was just talking to a buddy of mine last night. He was in, he was living in Chicago for a short amount of time. And he was talking about how there was this it was an Irish restaurant, like an Irish owned restaurant that served Italian food, and they only hired opera singers as the wait staff. And it was amazing. Like, you would go in and you got really good pasta, and every once in a while a server would like break out into song and everybody would sing along with them. Like, it was the weirdest, wackiest concept. But if you think of it this way, like, I think it's a really beautiful example, because it doesn't really matter what your concept is. It could be the weirdest thing in the world, but own it and do it well and execute it. And it could be successful.
There was a restaurant that got really well known for some of the quickest busters like in the town. Like, these guys were like a duo and they just crushed it. Like, it was a whole event, and people watched. Like when a table got up, they like waited for a little bit of attention to be gravitated toward the table, and they just busted it.
That's
Dude. It
hilarious.
was pretty funny. But it's like that's their thing, and people wanted to join there and go. I think another prime example is the
Salt
little
Bay.
Salt Bay.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the guy's pouring salt on steaks,
Right.
like, and that that stuck. So a lot of the times it's like these little quirks, these little features that you do that are just different.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like whatever you do, like do the shit out of it. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to put salt on everyone's steaks at the table, like do that, man. Put a little flair on it, because someone's going to take a video of that. It's going to go, it might go viral. It might not. But if you love doing it, like, why not do it? Go above and beyond, stand out, because it doesn't really matter what it is. Like, perception is reality, right? And that translates to value and price. So if people just want it because it's different, then that translates to more customers for you, more money, and then hopefully success. Like, yeah, like you should never chase trends or like just do something because it's I don't know, Instagrammable or
Cool.
like something that's popular, but do something that makes you stand out, and make it fit your brand, and get crazy with it, because why not? Like, what's your quick fire dream concept, and or theme? If I was to give you $1 million, what would you do right now?
Oh man, $1 million wouldn't be enough. Like I said before, I see spaces and I kind of just dream big and I just get creative with it, because I know that, part of town that it's in, I know that, it's missing this. This would be great here. There's a spot over by my pops in Mission Viejo, right on the lake. A lot of restaurants went out during COVID, and some prime real estate's out there. And there's no brunch spot. And I know how good it is here. And I know the clientele there is all about being active and, involved in the neighborhood, and something like say like a Morning Glory or something like that. Like a riff on that would crush it. But obviously, you want to be super unique and do something different. I just think that they have done a fantastic job with, doing brunch and doing it right, and going above and beyond, and, going all out on the theme, all those things, something like that on the lake would absolutely crush it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would need about, 30 million.
About 30 million. Wow. That's a big dreams, dude.
It would be like $5 million job.
But it's definitely doable. And like I was saying earlier, like that lakeside brunch spot, like that stuff works really well in places like Lake Tahoe. You have a tourist, kind of a touristy area, and then you just put this big thing, and the big selling point is you're on the water, but then you show up and you happen to get really good food and really good drinks. You're like, oh my God, we're going to come here every time.
Yeah. A lot of these guys are like obviously your house is on the little lake. I mean, it's a private lake. Community's kind of small, tight knit, but everybody knows each other, and the word would spread like wildfire, and everybody just kind of boats around their little electric boats.
Mm-hmm.
And the only spot that's open is this Mexican cantina. It's an okay spot, prime real estate, but everybody goes there. They pull up their little boats on the dock, they get some cocktails and just putt around.
Yeah, of course.
To have something open at brunch over there would be one of my goals.
Yeah, a good brunch spot. I'm a night owl. I would love like just like a late night, dark, hole in the wall kind of bar. But you walk in and it's got the best music playing. Like there's good cocktails, and the cocktails are like, it's like a book. Like you have like everything's categorized. You have like a little black book of like bartenders cocktails that everybody like comes up with, and it's just cool, casual. Everyone's got a fresh haircut. I don't know why I've always like thought of that, but like if I'm gonna have my own spot, like everyone's got to have a fresh haircut every day. I feel like that's one of those things where it's just that small detail where like everyone here looks really fucking good. And then just bar bites, like really chefy small bites. And it's just about like share plates, hanging out, getting lots of drinks and lots of food. I love the type of place where you can go and just order one of everything, and it's only like 10 items, but you're with 5 friends. So Yeah, something like that. I'm super into. Maybe with like a secret
Yeah,
door,
that's cool.
reservations only, speakeasy kind of thing. But yeah, that's definitely my vibe.
Yeah, that's a cool spot. I like the little black book with just an expansive, list of cocktails
Yeah,
and break it down about vodka and whatnot.
just a bunch of pros.
It's funny that you want to go. It's funny you want to go all dark. I was thinking like just pure white abstract paint, like paint on the wall and floor, like floor to ceiling, like this
Yeah,
splatter
I
painting.
want
Right?
like dark, like brick and like warm lighting, like Edison bulbs and like um maybe even like a fireplace would be sick too. Actually,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I like that style too. I'm just thinking brunch. You want to go light and bright. Yeah, if I was to do a bar, I think that dark, kind of rustic,
yeah.
warm, inviting.
Very,
Yeah,
very nightlife. Almost like a dive bar, but like cleaner and really good drinks. That's kind of like the type of thing I want to do. And, really chefy little food bites.
yeah. Little finger food.
Sweet. All right. Well,
What
this
do
one
you?
was short and sweet, but
Question: where do you see the haircuts lying in concept, brand, or theme?
oh, I think that's part of like the brand. Like,
Hundred
yeah,
percent.
that's definitely on it would be on brand, right? Like if
Yeah, yeah,
you showed up to the interview and you had a fresh haircut for that day, you would be on brand, right? That's like one of those little things that people just notice. Like they always like every time I go in there, everybody has fresh haircuts.
yeah. It's what people are talking about.
Yeah, it's just that little thing, It's a weird detail that like doesn't translate to like money. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't translate to like yeah. Well, people want to spend more money when people have good haircuts, but
All those little details do.
yeah, exactly.
Like if you get them all right and you're very consistent with your branding, bottom line, you're going to be successful because you know who you are and you know who you're catering to.
Right. Yeah. So
Cool.
it's cool.
I like your idea.
Thanks, man. I like yours.
Yeah, if you guys want to donate to Seth's, what are we calling this?
Hmm.
What's the name for your
Oh, the
restaurant?
name? Oh man, I don't know. I haven't even thought of the name. Probably have something,
Oh, we'll think about that.
some stupid name, or just name it after like a really bad cocktail. Like there's those bars that are
If you
called
guys
like
want to donate to Cape Cod, we'll set up a
yeah,
GoFundMe for Seth.
called the Blood and Sand or something,
The blood and sand.
or just call it the something less obscure. Just call it the Midori Sour.
Love it, love it, and it's just the most like
Opposite of that.
authentic credit cocktail.
Yeah, we don't even have Midori. Actually, we don't carry it.
I love that. I love that. All right, we got ideas.
Yeah, dude. All right, bro. Thanks for doing this with me.
Cool, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hospitality Hoot. Remember, if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at White Owl Hospitality. And if you're a restaurant or bar owner looking to expand your concept, you can find us at whiteowlhospitality.com to see how we can help grow your business. Remember to like, subscribe, share this episode with other people, and remember to tune in next week for another episode.